All right, episode 22, and happy, what is it, post 4th of July for everybody at this point. Hope you had a great holiday if you're based here in the US. And if you're not in the US, hopefully everybody had a good working day without your American coworkers showing on those rare holidays we get. Anyways, so not only is it another short week, it's literally a short week and slow news week. But yeah, we got a couple of things. I think we're doing something similar to what we did last week, kind of like a quick hit, briefly talking about headlines that came top of mind for both of us this week. Let's see, what do we have? We have Tesla's stock pump. Oh man, that kind of hurt. That really hurts me here. But so Tesla stock pump, a little bit of chat GDP, both on the Mac front, and also a little bit of a collab there with Time this week, which is surprising yet not surprising. And of course, Amazon's $1,600 business robot is trashed. So, should be interesting. All right, Matt, I'm kicking it off for you.
All right, yeah, some good stories. The famous Tesla that we love talking about, that everyone loves talking about, makes their appearance again. And this time in the form of a huge stock pump over the last week.
40%, by the way.
And it's wiped out its losses from this year because of the Magnificent Seven. Tesla was the only one who was down for the year. And in literally 3 days, it came right back up for the year. And so if you're a Tesla shareholder, which you all know I am, it's been a really good week for everyone. And the reason this happened is because with June closing in terms of the month, every first of the month, all of the car companies report their deliveries and their production numbers. So Tesla, NIO, XPeng, all the popular EV companies, they report deliveries. And for June, Tesla reported that they delivered around 444,000 vehicles. So what that means is 440,000 people essentially purchased a Tesla, and they produced 410,831 vehicles. So they delivered more than they produce. And why that's positive is because they're getting rid of their excess inventory and they have more demand than the supply that they're creating. So this was huge. I saw this chart that this was the first time, I think, in 6 months that Tesla actually delivered more than it produced. So the street took note of that and is seeing this as a flipping of Tesla's performance in terms of its company. The last, 6 to 8 months, the narrative has been there's weak EV demand, Tesla can't grow anymore, Elon is going to quit, etc., etc. And so this is a catalyst of positive news to turn it around. They're still down year over year, so they are still not growing year over year and also month over month. However, because of the demand versus production numbers, as we know, the market likes to purchase for the future. And so this is a signal that Tesla is turning things around. So congrats to Tesla, congrats to Tesla shareholders. And if you own Tesla, you're up 20% for the week.
It's 40% on the year.
40%.
Well, it's 40% if you bought it at that low when we were talking about it. It was like in the 140s. And like, yeah, I'll buy it when it's 100. But anyways, so yeah, I'm not going to be the Tesla bear. It's like you should be not a financial advice, but you shouldn't be emotional in trades. You should just trade the pattern, trade the stock, right? We shall see. I mean, we'll be heading into earnings week in the next couple of weeks, and so I think that'll be where we actually see what the impact is. Because I think everybody was excited about the delivery numbers, but then I also saw some analysts who were looking at it from like their China business was down 20%, and so it's just like, well, part of the story was Tesla's China growth. But if you actually break out their delivery numbers by country, right, it was actually looking really bad for China. And then some other commentary around how Tesla was able to move these numbers is because of discounting.
Yeah.
Right, which was it really, when you think about it, right, again, Tesla's growth story has been around. It's like this EV leader and stuff. It's technology based. But if all this deliveries were driven by discounts, it just makes it like your typical automaker, right? It's like you lower price, people will buy. You don't lower price, people don't buy. And so there's this, I think we'll see it in earnings, how this
Yeah.
affects their gross margin or their margins in general, which is for an automaker very important because they're typically razor thin. And then what else? Oh yeah, on was it August 8th? Tesla slash Elon will be doing their robotaxi update. So I think that's really where it'll be make or break, right? Because I think this most current move has been based off of people's expectations on, right, Tesla going again, doing what Tesla does is going beyond just vehicles, but what is that going to look like? So either he comes in, either Elon comes across and just says, "Oh, this is kind of what I think we should do," or he actually has a concrete plan, which I think will probably move the stock price a little bit. But anyways, yeah, overall, you know, you've you're back to break even.
Yeah, I mean, and
Unless you bought it at the lows, then you're
that you
stupid.
bought it between 150 and 160,
Yeah,
like like I did. No, but you make a very good point around earnings. Earnings is, I think, in 2 weeks. I think it's July, the last week of July, some 20
yeah.
something.
Last week's fine.
And yeah, Tesla has had to pull the levers of reducing price on their vehicles. I believe like the Model 3 has been like the lowest it's been in a while. And like you said, that's going to hit the top line revenue. It's going to hit the bottom line because of margins. I think I think they're gonna have a bad Q2, and so I think it's one of those buy the rumor, sell the news events. I think
Hmm.
it'll decline a bit after earnings, but also maybe not because of the robotaxi event.
Yeah,
In these cases, people they don't like to sell the stock because there's another catalyst coming up, and so it may
yeah,
just stay around 240 ish, hovering around there until the robotaxi event. And then depending on
yeah,
what they see in that event, it'll either decline back down pretty heavily, pull
yeah,
back, or go up. That's my thought.
yeah. The market is hard to make decisions in this type of market. Remember Reddit? Reddit's like almost all time highs, and we were like, "Oh yeah, this is gonna go down more," and then it turned right back around from when we said. Meta's also at all time highs now. That's I'm feeling a little good about that because I bought it when that hit its lows for the year, so that's good. Microsoft is also trending higher. Apple keeps trending higher. Magnificent Seven, I guess mostly, but some other tech darlings are also.
I think all the
I
stocks
wish I
are
had
like all time highs now, right? All the tech stocks.
I think it's mostly like tech.
Yeah, tech
I
stocks.
don't know about like the Russell 2000, etc. Like those stocks. I don't know if they're doing as well.
No.
Um, but anyways, yeah. So you couldn't have gone wrong if you just bought anything, basically, right? Semis,
Yeah.
big tech IPOs. I don't know. It's all over the place. But
Well, we shall see when earnings comes around how this affects the financials. I guess
yeah,
we're calling it here. I think both of us are skeptical on financials. Don't think it'll really make their financials pop as much. But
yeah,
a couple things to look for. One is, yeah, what do they do in Q2? Probably going to be down still. But what is their forward outlook? Because that's what investors really want to pay
yeah.
attention to as well. So
So
we shall see.
calling the top. Calling the short term top. Let's not call it long term
Yeah,
top.
yeah.
Seen some wild predictions like 6,000 on this whatever spy. It's like, oh my gosh. We'll see.
All right, want to
Okay.
hit us up with the next one?
Yeah. Next topic. Our favorite one of our favorite companies, OpenAI. So do you remember when we a couple episodes, well, more than a few episodes back, we were talking about OpenAI during their what is it? Their event. It was a couple months ago at this point. One of them was is they were launching a Mac OS app. So apparently, the way they chose to implement their app was to basically opt out of the way macOS. So for like when you're building an app on macOS, there is this thing where you can choose to sandbox your app so that all the information and stuff is secure and stored. It kind of follows along with traditionally, Apple's security. But in this instance, OpenAI chose to opt out of the sandbox for I'm not quite sure why. And so all your conversations are basically stored in plain text. And I guess obviously anything in plain text means anybody can access to it. Really, the implication is if you happen to download any type of, ransomware, you get hacked or whatever. Everybody knows where to go to exactly to see what your secret conversations with OpenAI. But anyways, I think I thought this was just interesting because right, Microsoft was having their same kind of like come to Jesus moment with recall and the way they were treating that ability for you to basically use LLM to go back and basically read everything you've done. Anyways, so I just thought it was interesting. It's kind of weird. I'm not sure. I know you said you've used it a lot more. I refuse to download it on my Mac just because of those type of reasons. Well, not knowing that they did this, it was more of like I didn't trust them, and now it's like okay, well, good thing I never did because that would have been kind of awkward.
Well,
Anyways,
although Macs are well known for not really being able to be hacked into. Just the Apple ecosystem in general is pretty secure,
mhm,
right?
yeah,
You rarely hear about hacks into Apple OS or Apple hardware. So I think
mhm.
that's the one thing that's reassuring. It looks like they did update their app though to start.
Did they?
Yeah, in the article that you shared at the bottom, it said they updated their app
Mm.
to start encrypting chats. And yeah, I do use the desktop app a lot actually now. But at the same time, like we've stressed in the previous episodes, I don't put anything that's pretty sensitive. So if someone wants to read my questions on, how to convert cups to tablespoons, have at it. But yeah, it is. I guess who knows why they didn't encrypt it at the beginning. When you started saying that, my first reaction was like, it's probably just some checkbox that they omitted that they forgot about. No, but it's good for pointing that out. Not only at Mac, but other in general. Like this is a good topic to always talk about is security and privacy, right? And if you're using these apps, just again make sure that you're putting into them what you feel comfortable putting into them, because there's a lot of hackers in this world that are always trying to get at your data. But yeah, I think I'm interested to see if anything comes out of it. Sounds like it's encrypted now, so going forward, they won't be stored in plain text. But similarly, that's maybe a good segue into the other thing around OpenAI is that OpenAI recently struck a deal with Time. Used the over 100 years of Time's content history. As we've talked about before, how these LLMs work is they need data. And data is usually in the form of a lot of content. That's why they're called large language models. So the more content and the more data you feed into them, the smarter these models can get into knowing what to say about a question you're asking or an input you're giving them. So by getting access to Times journalistic articles, now we can go back in time to understand what happened in the world, right? Better. They inked a similar deal previously with News Corp. News Corp owns the Wall Street Journal, the New York Post, Barron's, and other journalistic sites. And so now by having all of this content, well, OpenAI, ChatGPT is starting to get smarter in terms of, I guess, world history.
Yeah.
Now it's world history based on what journalists said, which is,
Yeah.
we can have our own opinions on that. However, Times is pretty reputable, I'd say. I don't know about the other ones like Wall Street Journal, New York Post. Those are kind of biased, I think, towards like
Yeah.
left. But yeah, it's like Encarta all over again, but in ChatGPT. You
I
remember
know.
Encarta?
Yes. I was just thinking, like, I used to have subscriptions to Time Magazine way back in the day. So I think, what was I going to say?
Subscriptions to magazine. That's another thing of old times.
Yeah, I actually think it's something people like newer generations kind of miss out on,
Yeah.
right? It's like getting, it's not, okay, it sounds weird, but like, the mail. Another probably dated thing that most people don't use anymore. But like, you get your weekly kind of like monthly mail and you kind of have this like, very tangible physical thing you kind of like look through. And so like actually I was having this conversation with a coworker. We were chatting and I could kind of see her background. And they had a bunch of pictures torn out from magazines posted on their wall. It's
Nice.
kind of like an art like decoration. I was like, yeah, I remember that. Like in college, that's what I did. I had magazines and I would use that as kind of like a wallpaper. Just kind of like spice up the dorm room, right? But nowadays, like you don't really. I mean, you just don't have that anymore. And so we were just kind of talking about like yeah, there's certain changes that have happened over the past decade or so that it's like, wow, it's again partially nostalgia, but partially about like, yeah, you're actually kind of missing out on a few things because everything is digital for the most part nowadays, right? Again, this idea between like online versus the offline world and how it's just like we're less offline, like offline living in the world. But anyways, yeah, I thought it was interesting because one, it's just like it's kind of like a bygone era. Right. But anyways, interesting, yes, and I think it goes back to what we've talked about before. Like LLMs really going forward, right? I mean, they're all pretty much going to kind of like end up into the same area. It's just a matter of like who has the better data that they've trained their models on, right? So, anyways,
Yeah.
I also wouldn't say it was like it'd be like super left or super right either. I don't remember what politics were like 30 years ago, but I feel like the past 10, 20 years have probably been kind of like not outliers per se, but like the more extremist versions of that where I'm not necessarily sure that existed. Anyways, I'm not gonna.
I
Yeah, I
think
don't know, but I just caveat that I think the longer time span you have, probably the better breadth, right, you get on any type of political spectrum.
yeah. And I also think these journalistic companies, oftentimes the way that they write is influenced by the current like trends, right?
Yeah, totally.
And so, yeah, it is interesting to go back in time to like 40 years ago and maybe ask a question. I don't know. I don't know what you would ask, but to see how that different writing style was there.
Yeah, yeah,
It's probably more, and if you think about the 60s, right? More masculine, like it was more masculine area
mhm,
where men were
that's true.
more dominant on things, and
Yep,
nowadays like
yeah,
it's less so and more inclusive and LGBTQA, right, is like
yeah,
is like commonly accepted. So all that stuff is interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
We are starting to get like nostalgic slash historic here. I think reflecting on kind of the past.
yeah.
That's why I think it's also important, like when you're talking about offline versus online and how it's different now. We're both fathers. That's why I think it's important to just figure out how to, for us at least, we limit screen time pretty heavily, and we try to
Mhm,
figure out how to just get more of that offline world into my daughter's life, so
yeah,
she doesn't get sucked up by media
yeah,
as she grows up.
yeah. Same. Totally. It's totally technology is totally banned
Yeah.
for yeah for my kid too. Even though he's really good at using the iPad, and we're like, okay, this is not good. So yeah, we definitely don't let him use it. Maybe when he's closer to school age, just because I think schools are using it and he'll need to at least know how to use it then. But at least for the first, let's say 3, 4 years, yeah, totally. He doesn't need to be staring at a screen. The other thing I was just thinking about this is I know a lot of people are kind of like looking at ChatGPT, Perplexity, etc. as like the next search engine. But I think the comment you made is like, this is similar to Encarta. It's like that's not really the goal. At this point, I don't think the goal is to be a search necessarily be a search engine, at least from a ChatGPT perspective, right? There's like you want all this historical information to do something more than just be a search engine. Because to be fair, like Bing, Google, they're okay, right? As far as being able to find you information, but like that's not really where the power of LLM is. So I guess I'm actually more interested to see what they do with all this data, and like what is that actually? What's the next step there, right? AGI, obviously, I guess. But anyways, I just thought just for those people who are looking, oh great, I'll be able to search more. I don't think that's necessarily the case either, but
Yeah, I'm with you. It's one use case of a much
yeah,
broader use case, which is
yeah,
just building I guess, the digital brain, right? That can
mm-hmm,
essentially do anything.
mm-hmm, yeah,
Um,
but okay,
In 10 years, I
all right,
think the world will be very cool as it pertains to the integration of these the AI models. So, yeah. Well, AI, goes into this next story around Amazon, which we don't talk about much here. But
mm-hmm,
I did not even know this, but Amazon has been working on an indoor robot for businesses at first.
mm-hmm,
But the latest news is they've decided to discontinue their business robot, which was called Astro, to refocus on the consumer robot, which, if I read this again, internally is named Coro, capital CO, capital RO. So CO stands for something. RO, I think, is robot. And basically, the Astro robot, which was for the businesses, was meant to be a security robot. So it would monitor like warehouses and other uh, businesses,
mm-hmm,
constantly monitoring and it can send messages, it can carry items, it can navigate
mm-hmm,
itself, do many things that you would expect a little robot inside to do. But they are pivoting and going to focus on one for the home. And so anyone who's bought an Astro, a business who's bought an Astro, which had a price tag of 2,600, is going to get refunds. And the home robot, which is still in beta and still kind of like in a private list, starts at 1,600. And so, like we were just talking about AI, but this is another thing that AI is going to power, right? If we think about the consumer experience, right now, this article that we are reading mostly narrates it in a similar fashion to what the business robot does. Is it can do home security, which is good, but it can probably do some other things. But if we think about the home robot in the consumer space and having one at home, I mean, you could go tell it to fetch you a drink. You could ask it to, just do other different at home tasks for you. And then when you're sleeping at night, you can say, be a watchdog or be a security robot, to which it would just constantly, pay attention to the home. When you leave it, perhaps, like if you go out for the day, maybe it could take care of tasks. Hey, do my laundry. That's probably way in the future, but theoretically, that's the whole home robot case. So it's interesting that Amazon's refocusing on this. I think it makes sense too, given where AI is today, and I don't know of anyone else working on it in home robots. So if they can be kind of the first mover in this space, that'd be
mm-hmm.
huge for them.
I mean, let's see. I remember when they launched this at one of their Amazon events. I feel like it was like a couple of years ago actually, where they announced it, but then it never actually. Or I've never seen it go beyond kind of like that announcement. So this was interesting because like, oh, okay, they've actually been selling this out in market for quite a bit. I mean, it was cool at the beginning, right? The little robot had little, little
It's
eyes to make it a
Wally.
little more. Yeah, like yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what a lot of people were comparing it to when it was first announced. It's like it looks like Wally. But yeah, I don't know what I think about it. It's like it kind of made sense from a business perspective, right? Because if you're a company that owns a bunch of warehouses, instead of having like actual security guards having to walk around, you can just have like 10 of these things roaming the warehouse. And so it's either not a lot of break-ins happen into warehouses and like office buildings to where like these are actually useful.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, this is not a big market that's worth them investing, right? If you think at Amazon's scale, um, anything they do needs to have drive like billions in revenue for them, and this like security guard market is probably not one of them. But anyways, so I think, I mean, it'll be interesting how they pursue it, because I think obviously with AI, like robotics is the next stage of that, and so this was their kind of like first attempt at it. Um, but
I think it's
yeah,
gonna take a while, though. I don't know. It could take a while. It depends on what they
yeah,
consider is their, you know,
yeah,
version they want to start scaling broader. I mean, personally, here I have about 6 Alexas in my house.
really,
Yeah,
wow,
and so
that's a lot.
this could replace, the standalone versions that are just on the shelf.
Yeah,
I'm assuming
yeah,
this would also do everything that the
yeah,
device can do.
yeah. I mean, if they fix the mobility side of it, I'm probably sure it'll be interesting. And like Amazon is definitely, I'm not sure if I'd say the forefront, but if you think about robotics in general, I mean, Amazon does a lot, right? I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
their warehouses are super automated, so it's not like they don't have the skill or the know-how. I think they're just probably trying to figure out like, how do we make this work, or what do we want it to actually do? And let's say like the home environment, right? Because the current Wally, I mean, it wouldn't work in a two-story home at all, right?
yeah. Well,
He's
yeah.
like one.
I was thinking about stairs too.
Yeah,
I think for me it's
Boston Dynamics. Put Wally on some legs,
yeah.
right? There you go.
Well, I was like, this is a stupid idea, but it is my first reaction is targeting the iRobot segment. So sorry, not iRobot. Sorry, targeting the Roomba segment. So anyone who owns a
Uh,
Roomba,
uh-huh.
basically have this robot also vacuum. I don't know, have this robot also do some vacuuming. But
Yeah.
you can basically
Well, I
say
mean,
replace every Roomba with one of these, and
yeah. Well, if that acquisition had gone through and not get nixed,
that's
who
probably
knows?
why they wanted it, so that they can have home footprint data.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if that was one of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
But no longer.
yeah. Well, this is pretty cool, regardless. And I think we don't see too many robotics stories right now. I mean, other than the more commercial side robotics.
Mhm.
So seeing more consumer robotics is very exciting to me, just because we know it's inevitable. All the things you see in like the movies, we know that's coming. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
when, and the technology maturity is going to dictate when, it actually goes mainstream. But I'm personally excited to have a little robot in my home.
Yeah.
I think you probably are. You're like, no, he's gonna listen to everything I say, and it's gonna be hacked.
That's right. Um, well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what the next. A lot can happen in 10 years, so who knows?
Well, I mean, I think we're just gonna see more companies in the next 2 years here with
Yeah.
consumer robot solutions.
I mean, I think really fundamentally, I think until battery technology accelerates, that is really going to be the limitation of a lot of this technology,
Yeah.
right? Because your robot might work for like 10 minutes before having to go back to his charging stand, but we'll see. I think that to me would be interesting. It's like, who's actually working on better battery technology? obviously, it's something Elon has mentioned quite often, obviously, right? I know Apple is another one who's very, very keen to find something that works better, right? Because like even like your Apple Watch, it's like you have to charge it every day,
Yeah.
which kind of sucks. Um, but anyways, not that's not part of our discussion today, but it's just interesting. Like all this technology, really, it's like there's actually fundamental issues that we need to solve first in order for them to really take off. Otherwise, they're there, but they're not. They can't be where I think where we
Yeah.
envision them to all be, right?
Well, I mean, that's like that's what that is. A lot of people don't realize that, right? Um,
Hmm.
and I mean that's why AI is having its day now because machine learning, aka AI, has been around for over 10 years.
And yeah, it's been around forever.
Yeah, but it wasn't until now this year to which the technology evolved to where it needed to be to have more mainstream, like global consumer use cases.
Yeah.
Another one is like glasses, right? Like glasses have been around forever, but it's not really adopted yet because the technology is not there to make it light enough to make it, what it needs to be.
Yeah.
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 All
We'll
right.
see.
Well,
10
let's see what happens with this robot. But that's it for today. Quick hits that were pretty meaty. And we're looking forward to Tesla's earnings in a couple of weeks here.
Earnings across everybody.
And
Place your bets now. Place your bets.
yeah, earnings are kicking off. I'm excited for Rivian to give their earnings and see what's going to go on with them. Hopefully, you'll get to that price point you needed to get to. What was it?
I just need it to double
20? No, 40?
30. I just need to hit 30, and I will finally be able to to cash out.
At break even?
Yeah, cash out at break even. Yeah, so sad. But anyways,
All right. Well, we'll talk again next week, Tony.
yeah. See you next week.